What's going on? Raven Ritual 666 back from the dead with a first time Path of Exile 2 build guide. Yes! I am coming across from Diablo as a refugee and I'm very excited to bring to you my Fireball Stormweaver build, or what I like to call it, my Firestorm build. This was something I theory crafted after watching a lot of the developer streams to see, how these skills would interact. And currently this build is doing amazing things and it's carrying me through the campaign. Yes, this is still my leveling type of build, but at the moment we are just having a really good time. It's doing all content. We can destroy bosses in a matter of seconds and minutes, and overall it's just a really fun way to play Sorceress. So what is this build? Well, it is a Fireball build. We are going into the Stormweaver Ascendancy. And why we want to do that is we can get elemental storms to proc from our highest element, which is unbelievable. So as you can see here, we've got a nice elemental storm up. We have got so much AoE, so much fire damage. This is a build that you can do from about, level 30 plus. Unfortunately, you don't get Fireball until you're like past, I guess, level 30 into Act 2 of the game. Initially, I just ran the same leveling build as almost everybody. I just ran the Firewall and Arc, and I actually have that on my second loadout, so I can do a couple here. Just like the Firewall Arc, which is super strong, super nice. But it's just way more fun playing Fireball, so you just want to cast your Solar Orb, a couple of Firewalls. We're not even using any of our debuffs for the big damage that we get on our bosses. And it's just the AoE is very nice and it's super fun to clear. It's super quick. So you get a Solar Orb down, you can get a couple of Firewalls, and then just bang. Massive DPS with Fireball, and it's just so enjoyable. I will talk a little bit more about the build because there's been a lot of learnings. I haven't even spec'd into damage yet. Like, we can even use Mana Tempest here for even more damage for some mana burn. Now this is quite mana intensive. There's quite a few things that you will need. Survivability, as we know with Path of Exile, is a little rough early on, but at the moment I can almost not even look at the screen and just AFK Fireball. I don't even need to press a combination of skills. And I'm only a couple levels higher than this. This is what, level 31 enemies, and I'm level 34, I think. Or maybe 35 after, shooting and recording some boss fights earlier. But just bang, we just want to cast Fireball. You can honestly just cast Fireball and not worry about anything else. But guys, if you're liking this, please subscribe to the channel. It is completely free. It really helps me. I'm very excited to keep making more Path of Exile content. I've got a few more guides that are planned. I will be pushing this into the end game. This is just, I guess, my starter leveling guide for the Fireball Stormweaver. There's a lot I need to learn from, getting the 5 links, testing a few more passive gems. But yeah, let's take a little bit of a look at everything of how this synergizes together. I am live on Twitch on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so please come and join me live. If you have any information on this build of like, hey, Raven, Mana Tempest doesn't work the way you think it is, you're not getting that flat % damage, please leave that comment down below. But I'm very excited to learn this game. There's a lot more coming. This is my 1.0 version. This build is going to change dramatically as we push into the end game, but it's just such a fun way to play. If you're sick of doing Firewall and Spark and you want to do something that feels juicy, that feels like it hits like Fireball, well then this is going to be the build. Okay, well, let's firstly look at my gear, because gear is quite important. There's quite a few stats and things that we are going to need to prioritize when it comes to our gear. So when we have a look, I didn't get a good staff for a long time. I played in a party for a bit too, which kind of nerfed me. We didn't have the right setting to get independent loot, so we were kind of like loot ninjaing each other, and my good old witch friends got all the good staffs, but that's fantastic, good on them. But having a look really, you want to make sure you got spell damage. I've got 2 different loadouts. I've got one with a high spell damage that I use for single target, 62%. You want +3 to level of all fire spell skills, especially for Fireball, massive damage boost. Crit chance is nice, spell damage is great, increased damage to lightning or bonus fire damage is going to be really good to have. A little bit of life is okay, and mana regen is wonderful, right? If you can get some mana regen, you're going to feel good. I use this for most of my AoE clear, and then I swap to the one without the mana regen for bossing, while I just like burn through a few mana pots. You want to balance your resistance. For anyone that knows PoE, it is a bit more difficult of a game, or far more difficult than Diablo. We all know that, right? It's the Elden Ring of Diablo. So, you want to get some resistance, and kind of balance that as best as you can. If you look at my character sheet, nothing is overly crazy, like 23% on my fire, 23, 34 on lightning. You can fill in the blank with whatever you get on your charm. So if I'm fighting a fire boss, I'm like, hey, I need a little fire res. Like, I kind of swap out to a ruby charm, so feel free to, play around with that. But what you're kind of looking for is energy shield. Energy shield's really nice. Maximum life. We can't get maximum life through our skill tree like we can in PoE 1. So if you can get maximum life, you are desperately going to want that. Same as energy shield. I really enjoy having a bit of value into energy shield. I didn't spec it originally, and then I was sitting at like 80 energy shield, and it was down like that. So if you're struggling with survivability, don't be afraid to put more points into energy recharge rate, energy shield, the max of it, because it's going to give you quite a bit of survivability early in the game. I tested with some things, right, like these life recoups. I was like, oh, maybe that feels better, but it just felt like a waste of 6 points. And life recoup was kind of trash compared to, getting a few extra points into increasing energy shield. So just one learning that I had. Obviously, recharge rate and recharge delay is super nice. So something to play around with there. But yeah, looking at the gear, when we find it, is obviously you want as much damage as we can get. Resistance is good. Mana regen is good. Max HP. If you can get any socketed gear that you can put some additional resistance in, is nice to have. We want to have a little bit of passive health regen, but anything that's going to add fire damage or lightning damage is going to be your best in slot. So let's actually take a look at the skills. It's probably going to be better to look over on Mobalytics. For anyone that doesn't know, Mobalytics has a very accurate passive skill tree that is interactive. I am a content creator over on Mobalytics. You will see all of my guides over there. I have everything written up as how to play this, step-by-step instructions, where you should go for your initial build, and I just think I've got it in a bit of a nicer order than if I look on my current gear. So, flicking across, we will see. Fireball is what we're taking first. This is the crux of the build. It's where we get a lot of damage. We want to make sure we can get additional projectiles with scatter shot, so it fires out 3 times. It does do a little less damage, and it does lose attack and cast speed, but we will pick that up later with the rest of our 5-link. I do use Arcane Surge early on, until you've got your Ascendancy node that you can regen your mana. There is no point running Arcane Surge once you have that, but initially we need our Elemental Storm through our Ascendancy for our first couple of points, so we'll kind of come back to that. But if you can get faster attack speed, or you can get, which is, I believe, Arcane Tempo, or faster projectile speed, that is going to be better to have than Arcane Surge. But if you're struggling on mana, maybe you don't have mana regen on your staff or on your gear, maybe you're not quite leveled enough to take the points out of your damage for the mana regen in the skill tree, use Arcane Surge. We still run Spark. We like Conduction and Pierce, speak for itself. Spark has been our leveling skill from 1 to 30. We ran Spark. As soon as we got a level 9 skill gem, we ran Fireball, baby. Firewall, it's awesome. I use Fortress. I think there's another version of it that's actually a little bit better, that doesn't make it in a circle and it makes it in 3 different lines and makes it do a little, like 25% less damage than 50%. So I kind of want to grab that gem and take that. I use Arcane Tempo because, especially with Spark, it's very slow to cast, and from 1 to 30, the enemies break your firewall before you can even cast Spark. So we did use Arcane Tempo there, but that's going to swap out into Fireball. Solar Orb is nice. When you enter a fight, you cast a Solar Orb. We're kind of going to use this as our debuff. With time, we want to make sure we can get enemies to penetrate fire resistance. And because it hits frequently, we can also ignite enemies. End game of this build, we're going to need as much ignition as possible. The more we ignite, the more our Firestorm is going to do increased damage, vice versa. So Raging Spirits is awesome. We don't go Arctic Armor early, we go Raging Spirits. They just give us extra fire every time we're casting Fireball. Fireball explodes. It's just a very nice skill to have, and it kind of fits into our fire aesthetic. And we get them to explode when they're on low life, which is super nice to have. When we can get into Act 3 and we can get additional Spirit, we will go Arctic Armor with Clarity. Mana regen is wonderful. We can't do it where we're in Act 2. The reason being is Clarity requires an extra 10 Spirit. The only way we can get 40 Spirit at the moment is on our body armor. And I have a piece of armor with the 10 Spirit, but it's just worse than my current one as I'm losing a lot of resistance. So a better chest piece would definitely help with that. But if you can get Arctic Armor with Clarity, and you've got plus 40 to Spirit early on, run that. That will solve a bit of your mana, which is nice. And then Precision for accuracy. The more we can crit, the better it's going to be. Critting is quite important. In the interest of keeping this video short, I'm going to keep it quick. Flammability is nice. It's super expensive on mana, so that's why we want to run Inspiration and Impending Doom, so we get a little damage when it ends. But that is just a debuff. Don't cast it all the time. It is costly. Cast it on bosses. Cast it on elite enemies. It is an awesome skill to have. Mana Tempest. Now, why would we run Mana Tempest, which synergizes mainly with lightning skills? Well, it does allow us to do empower skill spells that gain 40% damage as lightning. So we're getting some lightning damage. If I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. I haven't really tested this much, but this has kind of been in the theory craft and what we're going to use for endgame. But yeah, it's not something that you want to use all the time, but if you've got a moment where you can stand safe, cast a couple of fireballs, rock Mana Tempest, it is going to help. It feels pretty good so far, but there's, yeah, a bit more testing I want to do with it, but at the moment it's in the build. It may go with time, we'll see. Firestorm, I'm not leveled enough to have it, but realistically we want to reduce the range of it. We want to make it more targeted, and we're going to use autocast. Cast on Ignite. We're going to get so much Ignite from Flame Wall, so much Ignite from our Solar Orbs, that Firestorm is going to do additional damage to ignited enemies, and it's going to take that Ignite away. So this is going to be wonderful. It means we don't have to waste any time on it. It's definitely going in the build. And then Archmage. Everyone's probably heard of Archmage Stormweaver by now. Bonus lightning damage. We want to stack a lot of mana. Hopefully get to like 1,000 mana endgame, which means we're going to get... Gotta do some quick math. You know, quite a lot of damage. 30% extra damage. If you look at how much we get as bonus lightning damage. So we will probably end up speccing some of our passive tree into lightning. That's why we take the lightning points early on. But that's also for Spark. Next, looking at our passive tree, we do go Stormweaver as our ascendancy. Okay, that's not working right now. Let me take you over back to live. I'll show you where we're running early. The rest of the build is going to be in the build guide down on MobileX below. Again, please subscribe. It really helps me to keep doing these type of videos. But early on, we're just going to come the first 2 points into Tempest Caller, which grants an Elemental Storm. So you trigger an Elemental Storm of the element you have the most damage with. So we're expecting a fire. So we get those fire elemental storms. It'll be much better once we can reduce its cooldown, so we can get more of them, and that's going to be the end game. However, this build is mana intensive. So once you've got 2 points in here, you're going to come across Arcane Surge. Once you've got Arcane Surge, we can drop our skill on Fireball, which will be Arcane Surge here, and we'll have it up permanently because of our Ascendancy, and that is going to be absolutely delicious. So, why can I not move? Alright, and then we're going to pick up extra damage here because we want to be able to keep doing fire damage and reduce enemies' resistances. It'll help with boss DPS too, so. And then once you've got that, we will go down into Rain Dancer. But initially you come up, you grab some spell damage. We struggle with mana early, so we get the cast speed for the extra damage. We get the increased energy shield. You pick up all your mana regen. I kind of like a couple of points into delay, especially while leveling, so we grab this. You might as well grab your points into fire and your points into lightning, and then all your crit chance for spells. Every time you crit, you are getting a chance for the elemental storm, which is more damage. Wonderful to have. Then there is some spell damage down here. This makes you feel a lot better early, even for Flame Wall and Spark. You want to grab these points. If you're struggling for defense, come down here, increase your energy shield. It's kind of nice, as long as you've got a little bit of increased energy shield through your gear. I went from like 12 energy shield at the end of Act 1 up to 230, and solve survivability issues. I played around with the life recoup and it was like, not worth it. And then again, mana. Now that we've got the mana, you do want to grab these fire resistance, the fire penetration, but we'll kind of come back to that later. We're going to beeline up here to grab all of these fire skills. Like, this is where all of our damage is going to come from. And then we're also then going to beeline up, grab a little bit of elemental damage and Stormbreaker. Come across over here. We want to grab all of this. You know, increase damage with hits against burning enemies. We've got so much Ignite. It's going to be up all the time. And it's cheaper to come to the left here to come up and grab these Ignite chances. And once you've kind of got all of that, we will pop over to the right-hand side. Cast speed is very important. So we can get some increased spell damage here and projectile speed, which is nice. And I believe there's some, like, cast speed somewhere around here and some crit chance and crit damage. We'll think about some extra lightning damage. We'll probably weave that in as well, but to the end, over to the right, and that'll be most of this build. So back over on our Mobalytics, I've got a bit about how it plays, how it works, how it synergizes. And overall, it is just a really nice build. It is so much fun to play. So I kind of hope you guys like the build guide. It is one of my favorite ways to play Sorceress so far this season. I will just quickly chuck on a very short video for us to have a little bit of a look at how this performs on a boss fight. So let me just change this over.
You are relentless, but that makes you predictable.
Have a quick look here. So yeah, here we are. Just, you know, we blasted through wherever we're up to in like under 4 minutes. I showcased a bit of the game before, but if you want to get your solar orb down, you're going to get your firewalls down, your flame walls down, sorry, and you're just going to spam your fireball for that extra damage. Overall, you can see here this video is 3.5 minutes long. We can pretty much get through this boss in sub 3 minutes, and that's only like a boss that's 2 levels below me. It's kind of been the way we have farmed this whole time. But everyone, thank you so much. Please, if you can like the video, it helps me immensely. I appreciate everyone that's been here to this point. Again, please subscribe. It really helps me. I'm trying to get to that 1K subscribers. I am new to Path of Exile 2, but I'm having so much fun, and I look forward to making more content for everyone in the future. Give this build a go. It is lots of fun, and I'll see you all on the next one.